Hey, Trevor, gonna compare you to this one was 96 and 2012. You look a lot bigger, plus. I'm sure you're a lot stronger now. So let's come out of leg lift. Um, I'd say, let's just see, right at the peak of your lift. It's probably the same. I don't know. I feel like maybe you might even be a little bit more inside here. I'm not sure. It's probably the same. Coming out of leg lift, right before that knee breaks your front hip. So let's go right before the knee breaks up front hip right here. I think it looks like you're actually moving a little bit farther forward. It just, at the same time too, because you're a lot stronger, your hip musculature is probably working differently. So that's why you're just moving a little different in this place. But if we show you where you are right here, so I'll put that front hip right here, and then I'll take it right before front knee opens, right here. Okay, that looks like your line, and then we'll do it here. Okay, we'll look at that front hip. Okay, and then I'm gonna take it right before your front hip opens right here. Okay, and it looks a little steeper. Specifically, if I use the angle tool and I put it right on, so it's saying 45 degrees based on that line. Trying to get this one as accurate as I can. Yeah, so you can see it's a little bit steeper. So you were moving more forward and down at the same rate here, and that's just something you definitely need to get back. Because I think what you're learning is you're a stronger, more powerful guy. But if we can get the hip to allow this, because look at this point here. Two things are kind of going on, which is interesting. So I think the plus over here is, see how this foot is closer to the ground? I would believe you're going to see you're building a longer stride, which means you're building more momentum longer through your stride, which you're doing now, which is good. But it's just not moving far enough forward in the initial coming out of leg lift. So if you look at force vector angles, okay, we can see big difference on those force vector angles. So we just still need to get better here. Get better to, okay, see when your knee comes down here, you've got more of your energy wanting to go down. You can see it a little bit. Sorry. More of your energy is wanting to kind of come here. Here, it's more of your energies kind of want to come here. Okay, so just working on that. Okay, so just before leg drive, it's about right there. Okay. I'd say the force vectors are similar at that point, but you look to be in way more hip flexion here. You look like you have such a lower center of mass here. It's obvious, which is great. So that means you can definitely see it. You're sitting lower. You potentially can build more power there, lower center of mass, more flexion, and I think you're doing that. But it's like I think the cleanup is just getting there more linear. Because look, you can even see it looks like you're stopped. If I go ear hole, down, you can definitely see you have gone farther. So just in the aspect of going farther here, even though it wasn't as linear, is giving you more energy. Now you're also in a better position to generate more power. And let's watch that. And you can see in that power production, you're really using more extension. So you're accelerating more center of mass at this point. You can see here bent in the knee, more rotation. But it's interesting, even though you were using more rotation, when you get to front foot, it's almost like you have the same amount of internal rotation. Now, you're in a longer stride, which this is huge. You've just picked up perceived velocity. So, your ball's going to have more late life in it because you're potentially be closer to the hitter. It also, too, with more of that momentum, it's probably going to pick up spin rates, too. So the ball's going to be jumping out of your hand more, that you're building more energy over time now. So that's a big plus for you. But, it just feels like I feel like you had the same amount of back leg rotation, which it looked like you were going to get more over here, and you didn't. You can see your foot to the side. It's just not as pressed down as it is here because you're in a longer stride. But maybe let's say this. Maybe there is more rotation here. And I'm going to say that's linked to that better, more forward and down movement. Got your vectors more linear, and which just basically made it easier for you to create rotation out of your leg drives. So I think if you can take like that initial phase over here with all this bonus of more time through your stride, more extension power, all this is going to be huge for you. And then two, look at front foot strike. You're more closed. Now, are you more closed because your hips are more closed? Your hips look more abducted here too. But that's another issue we could talk about too. And if you had more rotation, which probably the reason these are more abducted is because you have a little bit more rotation here, which is help bring your hip around, getting you in a more abducted position. We do want to be in this abducted position. It's going to help launch your trunk forward. Now, you have more power here, and you have more hip abduction at front foot strike here, so I still think they're going to kind of equalize each other out. But really good closed shoulder orientation. Can we get more hip rotation into it? Huge, big piece we need to work on. Keep working on. Front leg position looks a lot more extended. So let's see what this looks like. Uh, 6 degrees more, so just kind of goes your longer stride. But I'd only be concerned that this is too long if you didn't have all that power in your body. If you didn't have all that power in your body, what would happen is this, because there's no hip abduction here and you're such a long extended front leg, you might not get over your front leg. But in a way, I think it's just saying we do need to be more careful right here. See how you're extending right there? I don't see that here. So I think that's what's leading to a more extended front leg, which I would say isn't bad right now, but I would say it's not going to help. If it was more like it is here, it's going to help. So you can see a little bit more extension here, a little bit more interrotation here. So, you can see it here. You were working to really keep that internally rotated, keep that back. At the same time, too, you're getting more forward and down movement, which put it in a better position to where when this opened, or front side opened, this could be not too far behind. You can see when this front leg breaks front hip, that back knee's going down. You can see here when your front leg breaks front hip, your back leg is not even ready to go down. So we're off timing here to here, and that's because you're not linear. You're not moving forward and down at the same rate. And then that's putting you're getting more power, which is good, but it's still putting you in a position where you're more extended leg more farther out, and your hips are now not abducted, which would help pop the trunk forward. So at front foot strike here, you can see back then your trunk transferred fairly well, and here's your trunk transfer now. This is both in maximum external rotation. Let's see trunk orientation. Let's go chin to belt buckle. Let's go chin to belt buckle. Or let's say not belt buckle. We're doing chin to middle of hip. So you're more vertical. So, and that's the same issue. Like it can be a little bit hard in your arm. If you're missing high here, you're going to try to force internal rotation to get the ball down. When we need you getting more forward trunk tilt. Okay, so if you were not so extended here, if you were more internally rotated here, you would have landed. It would probably been a little shorter stride, more flexion, more hip abduction, and then that would have pushed you in more forward tilts, better place for your arm, and you'd be able to locate up to down in the zone if needed. You can see at pitch release, your legs kicking in late here. Pitch release, your legs, same thing, kicking in late. So, a lot of differences, pros and cons both ways. Definitely you're better, more explosive athlete, but go back to those key points. We've got to more forward and down at the same rate. So when we get to front knee breaking front hip, I need a linear force vector at that point. Then when your front knee breaks your front hip, this can't be too far from driving. That's why this is extending, because this is taking too long. And that would help too if you had a more linear force vector. And then ultimately that'll put you at front foot. Good power, good drive. with a more open hip position, more abducted hips. So then when you're going to rotation, you get more forward trunk tilt. And then ultimately that will support also more front leg extension. So we just got to work some of these angles out. Now, like I said, you probably have a tighter hip than you had back then, stronger hip. But we've got to get this all to work, because notice how your back hip is coming around all the way to pitch release. You can see that knee still coming in. I'd say your hips are probably open here in your maximum external rotation, but if there's days where you feel even slower, your hips might be still opening at pitch release, and that's going to be harder on your arm. Studies link late, or if you're still rotating hips at pitch release, more torques in the arm, just because your hips aren't stable because they're still rotating, and you're trying to, and you're up to, therefore your upper body's not stable, and at the moment of all those torques, you're not stable, then you're going to more chance of putting more stress on the arm. Okay, so those key points. Let's just hit those key points. I know it's a lot, but I think that's where you're going to be, to me, most efficient, and potentially, because you're going to get more forward trunk tilt, it's going to give you more velocity, which is crazy.